This is the Aviation Business Podcast, the podcast that equips your aviation business to achieve a higher altitude. Now, here's your host, Tim Bonnell.
Well, welcome to the Aviation Business Podcast, and I just want to kick off this particular topic with a quote from it's the former CEO of GE, Jack Welch, who is well known for many things, but he said, in every company, differentiation is never more important than it is in times of trouble. And that's the time when everyone tends to go to the well and equalize rather than differentiate. And differentiation is obviously important in good and bad. And as at the current time of this recording, the various news sources and economic organizations are calling for some level of a recession in the coming months and year and a half or so. And so it's important to think about how are we going to set ourselves apart from our competition, especially as things may get a little more challenging than they have been in the past few years. So when asking most companies or particular salespeople how their service, especially, or even product is different from other options, you typically get the same response, right? Our people, our experience, and our relationships set us apart. And honestly, if you were to ask 10 different salespeople, at least 9 of them that's going to be their answer. I've tested this time and again, and it's been in countless sales books. And so if 9 out of 10 people are saying the same thing you're not differentiating yourself from the competition. Now, there's some truth, your people, your relationships, your experience does differentiate yourself, but it's not quantifiable to your customers. It's something without empirical data, they're just hearing the same thing you're saying that their current provider is saying, or in your competition might be saying. So differentiation is truly about setting yourself apart in a different way. So obviously, this is a vast subject, and there can be a lot of things done to differentiate you and or your company or your product. But here are some keys to keep in mind that will put you well on the journey to setting yourself and your product, your service apart from your competition. And first, it just starts out with, if you want to be different from others, to set yourself apart from the other options that your customers have, you have to have a different mindset. And part of that is, the mindset about how you view your customer and the service and product you provide, rather than viewing your customer or your prospect as a transaction or a reliable relationship that's always there, or I'm going to get paid for a certain amount of time served. It's got to be about how can I provide and create value for this customer? That is, how do I solve their problem, right? What is the problem they have that I can solve better than someone else? Or how can I create pleasure for them, make their life easier, or their business grow, right? We've got to create value, and we've got to continually create value. And it's not just, what we do and say before the sell, it's what we do and say after the sell. So we first need to start with that different mindset that we are serving this customer or product, and we are going to continually create value for them that will solve their problems or make their life easier. So we got to start with a different mindset than everyone else to be different than everyone else. Second, we actually need to execute, right? We need to say what we're going to do, and we got to do what we're saying we're going to do. We need to show up and deliver on time. We need to be honest. We need to consistently create value, right? Not just up front, but we've got to do it ongoing. We can't keep doing the same thing over and over and continually provide that same level of service, create that same level of value. And we also really need to pay attention to what the customer is saying. We need to listen to them to see how we can continually solve their problems, to help them win, to help their life get easier, the business to grow better. So we have to listen to what they say. We can't just assume what they need. We have to ask questions, right? So we need to execute consistently and on an ongoing basis in order to differentiate ourselves. Honestly, there's plenty of people who, especially in this day and age, salespeople, service people, companies, they're just not reliable. They're not responsive, and the level of customer service is getting far below what it is. So if you can't do the basics, you're not going to differentiate yourself. So you got to execute on the basics. And next, we do need to build unique teams, right? teams of people who can exceed our customers' expectations. So our people are important, but we have to figure out how to utilize them to set them apart, right? So while they're important, we need to build a team of people who are A, highly capable, but B, they're energized and are going to do a good job over the long term and provide that positive energy, the positive vibes, the good feeling that your customers and prospects will have in working with your organization. So we got to have teams. Each person's wired different. We can't have two roles and plug 50 different people into those two roles. We got to find out what they do well, where they're going to serve the best, and how we can structure our teams in order to execute, in order to carry out what we hope to do with this different mindset of serving our customers and constantly innovating and creating the value to solve their needs. So once we have those things in the unique teams, then we need to deliver on a unique value proposition. We need to have a unique product, and or certainly on the service side, we need to have unique service processes that set us apart from our competition, right? Every company in the space of business you're in has a baseline of operations. Most all of them are doing at least these certain things. And in truth, that's pretty much where it stops for most companies. So in order to set yourself apart, you really need to look at what you can do to innovate, create value above and beyond what is being done now in order to better serve your customer, in order to win more prospects, in order to set yourself apart. That requires, again, listening to your customer, asking them, what is it that is going to make a difference? Is this product or service we're providing, is that creating a value? What if we did this? What are the other issues you're dealing with? Tell me more about that. What would be the ideal outcome for you if this problem was solved, right? By listening, asking good open-ended questions, we can get a better feel on what products or services we can do and do consistently and creatively in order to provide that unique service process, that unique product, which ultimately a lot of people call your unique value proposition. You got to do something different than everyone else is doing in order to differentiate yourself. And that's hard for some people to do. So again, every company has a baseline. Everyone's saying they have great experience, people, and relationships. So we've got to go a step beyond. We've got to execute, build unique teams. Then we've got to have a unique product or service process, creating a unique value proposition. So again, in order to execute on creating differentiation, you've got to do that talking. You've got to really listen to your customers. You've got to be intentional, thinking, reviewing, and executing these new services and listening. And then it's got to be an ongoing innovation cycle, an ongoing cycle of that value creation, evaluation, improvement, change, evaluation, and so on and so forth. So evaluating these things regularly, executing with our different mindset, building our unique teams of those people who are energized and capable to deliver the service, and then having a consistently differentiated, high value service or product to your customer is going to help you on that road to differentiating yourself, setting yourself apart from your competition, and most importantly, serving your customers and products and your customers and your prospects extremely well, which all these things together leads to referrals, more repeat business, and business and individual growth. So take your service, your team, and your company to a higher altitude by doing the things that no one else is doing in order to differentiate yourself and your product, your team from your competition, and serve your customers well. Well, here's your aviation fun fact for the day. We're going to go back to November 24th of 1947. We saw the first flight of the Grumman F-9F Panther. According to Wikipedia, the Grumman F-9F Panther is one of the U.S. Navy's first successful carrier-based jet fighters, as well as Grumman's first jet fighter. It was a single-engine, straight-wing day fighter and was armed with 4 20-millimeter cannons that would carry a wide assortment of air-to-ground munitions. Panther was used extensively by the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps in the Korean War. It was also the first jet aircraft used by the Blue Angels aerobatic demonstration team from 1949 through late 1954. Well, that's your aviation fun fact for the day. Until next time, keep your wheels up and your attitude high.
Thanks for listening to the Aviation Business Podcast. If you found this episode of value, please share with someone who could benefit from its content. You can stay up to date by subscribing in iTunes or your podcast player of choice. This episode is brought to you by Aris Insurance Solutions, your flight plan for navigating the turbulence in aviation insurance. To find out more, go to arisinsurance.com. That's AERIS insurance.com.